Well, no, listener, I have not. I imagine it's nothing good. My connections to, Johnny Tapia and, all that are pretty deep, right? Like, I was a big boxing fan. I was 1990. I was going to San Diego State High School, and I knew Johnny Tapia. He was this young, undefeated fighter, and I remember one of the girls in the dorm, came from Albuquerque, and she talked about him, right? Like, Johnny Tapia is this, Johnny Tapia is that, and sure enough, he built that rivalry with Danny Romero, and I guess it would have been 6-7 years later. They had a big fight on HBO that everybody watched, and it was very exciting for the junior bantams or whatever, and it was good for Albuquerque and it was good for boxing. But Johnny Tapia is one of those guys you could not get out of his own way, right? Like heroin addiction, his wife. I'll tell you a funny story. I met the nephew of Johnny Tapia in La Tuna, Texas, in prison. La Tuna, Texas is a prison for New Mexico also, because it's right on the Texas-New Mexico border, like that Las Cruces area, right? And he told me at the time that Teresa Tapia had been sleeping with all of Johnny's cousins or uncles, or they believed that anyway. They weren't able to prove it, but that's what they thought. I remember Teresa Tapia being in the ring after his fights on ESPN. It was a very rare thing at the time, a female manager. I think the only other female manager was Jackie Callan with James Toney out of Michigan. So, it was kind of a exciting thing, and you could see the growth in the sport. But it speaks to something deeper in the sport, an illness that the sport has, right? And that illness is, who are the people you trust? Look, I wrote my whole book about the pitfalls in the fight game, because if you trust the wrong people, they're going to put you in the wrong positions, and nobody cares about you but you, and you really got to look out for yourself and all of that. Diego Sanchez makes all the wrong moves, right? This was a guy they desperately wanted to be UFC champion. He burnt out pretty early, but still had a good career. Got involved with that trainer. God, I forget the guy's name, but look, there's a million trainers like that guy. They're absolute frauds, but they're good talkers. And before you know it, the MMA guys are following the leader. And that's the thing about, being a good fighter. Like, people think being a good fighter means you'd be smarter than, no, being a good fighter, actually, a lot of times all your other stuff is depleted. I watched Jake Shields fall around Tarek Azim like a moron. And that's because, you got so many things going on when you're fighting that you don't want to concentrate about anything else. So if you got a guy who's stepping in going, yeah, I'll handle that for you, that's what you're going to do. And Teresa Tapia and Tarek Azim and whoever that guy was with Diego Sanchez before are all doing that. Now, so Diego moves on from that clown that he was, who used to chase him with knives and stuff at the UFC Performance Center. And then he gets mixed up with Teresa Tapia. I mean, the wife of Johnny Tapia. That's why I say, could Diego make any more of the wrong moves? It's very sad. Whatever is happening right now, whatever you were alluding to, listener, I know is bad. Sometimes human beings cannot get out of their own way. That goes for Johnny Tapia, that goes for Diego Sanchez. And there's people there that are conspicuously are sitting on a perch ready to take advantage of those people. I know Diego lost a good portion of his money that he fought for, having a friend manage his money. And that's really why I wrote my book. Like, it's about, be the best you can be as a fighter, but here's the problems that are going to happen. And the problem is, it just happens over and over again. Why? Because it's human nature. Fighters don't want to deal with finding the right guy. They're going to trust the easiest person, what's ever easiest for them. We as human beings go to the easiest, laziest thing. And so there's always some charlatan out there putting his face in your mug, telling you how great you are, right? And a lot of people like to be stroked. I personally don't, but a lot of people do. And they fall for that kind of stuff. And I think whatever's going on with Diego Sanchez is a symptom of that. Might have nothing to do with that, but believe me, he wouldn't be in whatever position he's in, listener, if it wasn't for all this stuff we talked about today. Like and follow for more on The Fight Game.